Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tony Chimmel, the GOAT of ring announcers. And you're listening to the Marks Podcast on YouTube.
Hello and welcome to the Marks Podcast. Earlier this week, we lost someone who, let's just say it, was wrestling. It's no exaggeration to say that this podcast, many podcasts, and the wrestling business itself would not exist if it wasn't for Terry Hulk Hogan Balea. That being said, I would like to clarify something about our stance on Hulk Hogan. The reason I'm the one speaking right now is because I've never shied away from expressing my dislike for Hulk Hogan. But it doesn't take away that this was a human being, and what he's done for the wrestling business can never be duplicated. He was a man, he was a father, and he entertained and changed the lives of millions all over the world. So, it is with that respect, it is our privilege to celebrate and remember the life of the one man who changed wrestling more than any single person in this world. Rest in peace, and thank you, Terry Hulk Hogan Balea.
Hulkamania will be immortal. Hulkamania will live forever.
Fuck, that got to me. Damn.
Hey, Gerard, you coming back?
Yes.
So, before we start, I want to make it clear, whatever your feelings are, if you're watching this live, I don't care. I'm not here to hear anybody complain and talk shit, wish death upon this man. We're here to celebrate a life of, let's be honest, he is wrestling. If there's anybody on this planet that is personified that wrestling embodies, it's Hulk Hogan. And I've talked to so many people this week about how their childhood died and they're so broken up. I've seen grown men in tears. It's been hard. And I'll be the first to admit, I was not a fan of Hulk Hogan's politics, but at the end of the day, he's a human being. We're going to talk about some of that stuff. But first, Gerard, you had the honor and the privilege of knowing him, working with him. So I'm going to give you the floor. How you doing? Any
Well,
stories?
like I said, when I first got the news, I was at work. And the irony of hearing about it and the song that was playing on my radio. I Saw God Today. If anybody out there, country music fan, I Saw God Today is a song by George Strait. I just happened to hear my message go off, and that was a song on. I looked, and that's the news I got at the same time. I was 14 years old when I met that guy. 15 years old, I was in the middle of the Boston Garden posing in his shirt to sell. And I did a horrendous job. I was 15 years old. I was 130 pounds soaking wet, and I did a horrendous job. But sitting in the Boston Garden that young, I got to meet a very interesting person, a Linda Balea. And it wasn't the Linda Balea that we ended up seeing in Hogan's Knows Best. So I got to actually know before that stage. And then by getting to meet him and know him as a WWF employee, I got to know the backside of Hulk Hogan. You go from meeting your childhood idol to working with that person, and you realize at the end of the day, they're just like me and you when the time clock is done. Except for in those days of WWF back then, he had no time clock where he punched in or out. And as much as people have been celebrating his life the past couple of days, what gets to me is the fact of the celebration of his life and then not bringing in the other person he had as a partner in that time frame. Everybody who's part of the professional wrestling today has a gratitude to two people. That guy sitting behind me and the other one that nobody's allowed to say his name. But we all know who it is.
I'll say that he did say some wonderful words. He left a beautiful message. And I, you know, and you and I talked about this, and we were in a bit of a disagreement in the sense that I felt like maybe he didn't say anything, or maybe he hasn't come out publicly because of the fact that he doesn't want to take the gravity away from what really just happened.
And that's why I say, for the one
Yeah,
time,
I'm gonna pull it up. Here, we're gonna put up the message that he wrote.
okay. The one thing I would like to say before, okay, I'll be good.
You want to read it? This is
Vince McMahon's.
This is Vince McMahon's tweet.
Yep.
The world lost a treasure today. Hulk Hogan was the greatest WWE superstar of all time. Someone who was loved and admired around the world. He was a trailblazer, the first performer who transcended from being a wrestling star to a global phenomenon. His grit, unbridled thirst for success, unparalleled, and made him the consummate performer. He gave everything he had to the audience whom he appreciated, respected, and loved. He leaves us with one of his favorite expressions: train, take your vitamins, and say your prayers. Today we pray for him.
You know, those were always the three commandments of Hulkamania. It's the fourth commandment that he lived by. To believe in yourself. Because in the wrestling business, where people were going to get on dump on this man for everything he did behind the scenes, the politicking and stuff like that.
And
What I say to those,
I want to say this. What's going on, Eric? I want to say this, and you and I have talked about this as well. I've always disagreed with politics in wrestling. You know that, whatever it may be, how we talk about a certain woman in AEW. You can't deny the love he had for those fans. And people can sit there and say, oh, he didn't care anything about fans. You look at that little boy in the video, the little video package.
That got to me seeing that.
I'm going to let you know this. Before there was John Cena for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, there was that guy. He could the Special Olympics. You know what this guy meant to the Special Olympics? You could have other athletes go there. If he walked in for the Special Olympics, he could shut down the Special Olympics just because those kids knew who this guy was. They might not know who every athlete was that walked in that field, but this guy walked in that field, they knew who he was.
And I go to bat for him right now because I've always said, I understand.
That's a great comment by Leland.
That's absolutely Leland. He was marked for some things he said, and were they the nicest things? No. Were they tolerant things? No. But I'm gonna put an example out there, and it's not we're trying to take away from anything. I want to just make an example. I'm a Texas boy, Texas native, and if you're in Texas, you love football, you love wrestling, you love Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? That's a fair statement as far as Texans. But, and I'm gonna say it straight, Steve Austin did some very vile things. What's going on, Chayton? Steve Austin did some things, and he's still regarded as a hero. Steve Austin did things arguably worse than saying some bad words. Okay? You never got an apology from Steve Austin. It was brushed under the rug, and we just kept moving on with our lives. Now, that being said, you know what I do know about Hulk Hogan, and I watched in many of a documentary. I watched Booker T come out after his infamous Hulk Hogan, "We coming for you" expletive, and say how Hulk Hogan pulled him aside and said, "I'm not worried about it, brother," and how Macho Man Randy Savage Hulk Hogan, Booker T, and Stevie Ray sat catering one day, and they joked about it. And he looked at Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan said, "Nah, I'm not a bad N-word. I'm a good one." And they were joking about it all together. I also watched someone named Devon Dudley come out and say how Hulk Hogan saved his job twice, once in TNA because they wanted to let him go. I'm not saying that speaks for every person of color in the business. I'm not saying that speaks for everybody offended. But at the end of the day, there are people that have been accused, that have done, that have been almost convicted or found mentally unstable and not able to stand trial, if you know what I mean. And they are given a pass. There are people. Go ahead, Gerard.
The one thing I'm going to bring up is, while I was there, for all these people who talk about the politicking of Hulk Hogan, in the couple years I was there, I saw 3 times this guy tried to give the torch to 3 different people: Macho, Warrior, Sid. And the 3 times he tried to pass that torch,
no one could lace up his boots.
So when these people complaining about the politics, you know what? You don't like me? Beat me. Nobody could beat him. Now think about this. And I want people to understand this. In what sport, profession, anything?
Well, I'm going to say this. How many times did he transition the business? Look at this, okay? You have Hulk. Okay, let's talk about the original. Let's talk about Thunder Lips himself. The man was the first big-time playing wrestler to go. You can talk about Vern Gagne doing his little movies in the AWA, whatever, but you're talking about a guy who worked with Sylvester Stallone, played Thunder Lips, the Ultimate Man, came back, was in the AWA, right? Did the stuff with Nick Bockwinkel, at Hulkamania. That was a thing well before WWE. I want to make that very clear.
Think about this. They said it was the 80s, 90s. In the 70s, in Shea Stadium in New York, when he headlined against Andre, but the script was reversed. The WWE buried that thing. The script was reversed, though. Andre was the babyface. Hogan was the heel.
Because if you remember, he started out as a Super Destroyer years ago under a mask.
So he transcended the 70s into the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s.
Now again, when we talk about this, let's talk about the man who's never supposed to be named. We're going to talk about Vince McMahon, the guy who changed the face of professional wrestling. Okay, as far as that goes, hold on.
He did it with him.
I don't know, and hold on. And the reason he did it with him is because Vince McMahon legendarily had a conversation with Harley Race. He wanted Harley Race to come over to the WWF at the time and bring the NWA belt and drop it in the WWE, basically saying, fuck the NWA. Harley wouldn't do it. And I don't think it was that Harley didn't believe in him. I just think that Harley didn't want to take the chance. But you know who did take that risk? You know the guy who was right there at the cusp of being on top in the AWA? Hogan. He took a risk and he joined up with Vince Jr. and they went on to make magic.
Let me ask you this. And, right place, right time, right situation. We had just gone in this country with the Iran thing.
But I understand. He took a chance.
He's not champion. Iron Sheik ain't champion. Hogan doesn't go over because they were
Bob Backlund was the champion originally, and then Iron Sheik took it off him.
When Iron Sheik got that title, the stuff was going on with the Iran stuff, Hogan was able to get in. People were like, this Iranian got this. Hogan came and got it. And, it blew up. You had the right person at the right time.
Came out to Eye of the Tiger. He terrified it until Survivor got pissed off about it, but came out to Eye of the Tiger. Right place, right time. And he had magic with the Iron Sheik. You watch that match, Iron Sheik's interviews about Hulk Hogan and talking shit about Hulk Hogan are legendary. We laugh about those now. But again, this guy transitioned in that 80s time, took over the 90s. Say what you want about the Bret Hart thing. I don't care. And I like Bret Hart. Don't get me wrong. I like Bret Hart. But nobody was outselling Hogan.
I'll say it again.
He's one of the only people where if his name was on the marquee, You got a sold out house.
Before him, there was the only person that could do what he was doing in New York was Bruno Sammartino. And that's talking about a guy who held a belt for 5 years at a fucking time. This is good.
I've said it before, and so let's go to January of 1991. In the city of Albany, New York, which is the capital, they had just opened up a new arena. And if you know anything about Albany, it's only like 115,000, but it's the state capital. 20,000 seat arena. We get in there to set up the ring that day and said, how the hell are we going to sell this?
Oh, before that, hey, hold on. Gerard, the infamous day that you took in the bags for a Coco Beware, who were you there to see? You were in the Lowell Arena.
Coco.
No, but who were you there to see?
Coco.
What wrestler were you there to see? Who did you?
But Hogan wasn't on the card.
But I thought you said the reason you got into wrestling was because of Hulk Hogan.
He wasn't on the card that night. I just went down because at the time, Coco was going through this push.
No, I thought that you got into wrestling itself.
Hogan wasn't at the building.
No, I'm not saying at the building, Gerard.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I got there because I was a fan of his. 3 days later in Boston, when I went to my show, Hogan headlined that card. But what I was going to say is, we opened up a building in Albany, New York, 19,000 people. We're setting up the ring and like, how the blue hell are we going to sell this building out today? Because we all said it's all sold out. It was Hogan versus Earthquake. And when I tell you 19,000 people in January in Albany came in and filled.
Was it before or after the injury angle?
Well,
because remember, the big sell with Earthquake was that he broke his ribs after giving him the splash.
It might have been after. It might have been before. But what I'm saying is, and we all looked at each other and said, we can see us doing a major pay-per-view in this building. A year later, Royal Rumble 92, when Ric Flair won the title in that building.
Well, I mean, so many guys owe their careers to the beginning to Hulk Hogan.
Well, what I'm saying is, he opened a lot of buildings. He didn't. I'm not just talking about he might have opened up doors. He opened up buildings.
Who here's a fan of Ray Traylor? I'm sorry, Big Bubba Rogers. I'm sorry, the Big Boss Man.
Here's another one.
The guy who was one of Hogan's first big bad opponents, the Big Boss Man.
Saturday's main event.
It's
the steel cage match. Saturday's main event. On that Saturday, they showed on Saturday's main event Saturday. The following Saturday was Boston. Before that match, it was a halfway sold card. After Saturday's main event, you could not. When I tell you people were buying seats behind the old obstructed view seats in Boston, you had every seat filled. That's not because of Big Boss Man. That's because of this guy right here. Because back in those days,
one of the only again, this is fucking weird for me because again, my dad, big Hogan fan. He's someone who I always knew was gonna pass away in my lifetime. There's always those guys. And when the celebrity death, because we lost Malcolm Jamal Warner, we lost Ozzy Osbourne, and then I was just like, this shit comes in threes. And I wasn't thinking it was going to be a wrestler, but I was kind of like, I was like, okay, well, who's next? Because this shit comes in threes. And like Gerard, I was at work, and they were like, yeah, did you hear about Hulk Hogan? Because they know I'm the resident wrestling fan here. And they're like, did you hear about Hulk Hogan? I'm like, no, because I knew exactly what the fuck they meant. And yeah, it was fucking weird because, again, I'm 24 years old. I was in my dad's ball sack when Hulkamania was a thing, and it's more just about I saw how affected my dad was about it.
Jacob, I do want to get to something that you would have been affected by, even though you were quote unquote in your dad's ball sack when Hulkamania was in its prime. So we're talking about him transitioning the world, and Gerard said it himself. When they couldn't get over with their new talent, then the Warrior was a flop. When they needed someone to get Sergeant Slaughter, who did they bring back? They brought back Hulk Hogan. So Hulk Hogan would leave WWF at the time, and he would go on another endeavor and because of Ric Flair and Eric Bischoff, he would really, after Lex Luger was there and all, Lex Luger ended up coming over, but he legitimized WCW. Let's be honest. He walked out, he came out in that red and yellow Corvette, him and Jimmy Hart, and he made WCW viable in the 90s.
Yep. And he is the only person that could ever say, and this is never going to happen ever again. I don't care. Not in my life. Maybe it might in my lifetime, but he's the only person that's ever been a part of two big boom periods in wrestling. He had the whole, he was the guy. There would be no WrestleMania without.
No, and I agree with you with that. But
he had the cartoon. What
I want to get to as far as that is, he had the 80s. Those were his. He was starting the 90s. They were booing him at the end of his run in WWF. And we always talk about changes in wrestling, and in wrestling, it's an ebb and flow kind of thing. I take you back, Gerard, to Bash at the Beach. Sting, Luger, Savage against Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. You remember that? You remember that match, Gerard?
I was watching it.
Nobody else could have been that third man and had the impact. Now, there are rumors that they thought they wanted Sting to be the guy, but nobody would have gotten it over like Hulk Hogan.
And then he became like NF Punk just said it in the chat. He is the greatest babyface of all time, and probably one of the greatest heels.
The greatest heel ever. But I will put it like this: I don't think Hogan was ever the greatest heel for one reason.
They loved him too much.
The greatest, if you want to put down short term, because I want to say the NWO at the start when he turned was the greatest heel fraction for maybe 3 months.
Well, hear me out on this, Gerard. How many? Okay, let's talk about people who've turned heel over the years. The Big Show has always turned back and forth, flip flop. Yeah. We can't talk about that. Mark Henry turning in the Hall of Pain. That was a big one. That was John Cena's heel turn more recently. Oh wow! But they jumped back on the Cena train. But did you ever see people in a crowd crying, grown men crying profusely, throwing garbage, hitting Gene Okerlund with bottles?
Yes, I did. And I'm going to tell you one name. You've already mentioned his name.
Who?
Sergeant Slaughter. When he
turned,
hold on. When he turned for the Iraqi sympathizer,
was it nearly as big as what happened?
I was there. So? He burnt the American flag on TV.
Oh, geez.
Absolutely. So hold
on. I'm going to argue that.
I think that's cheap. I just think that's cheap.
I'm going to argue that because you're burning the American flag. I'm talking about one guy making a decision to turn into a bad guy. Sergeant Slaughter turned on America.
Hey, they wanted to put WrestleMania 7 in the LA Sports Coliseum.
I know about that.
And they couldn't do it because why?
Hold on. There's arguments about it. Some people said they didn't sell tickets, and some people say what you say. I'm talking about in one move, a guy changed his allegiance. I'm not talking about country. I'm talking about one man saying, fuck your vitamins, fuck your prayers. I'm going to be Hollywood. And in one night.
Because it didn't last long. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but you had grown men. You had grown men crying, Gerard, in the audience. Because they felt betrayed by a decision. This is what really legitimized the NWO, right? Hulk Hogan becoming that guy.
But my only problem was the fact of it was cool.
It became cool. 2
months later, I'm saying it became cool like 2 months later.
Would there be a D-Generation X without the NWO?
Probably not.
Would WWE, WWF have ever had it?
Dan, I'm only saying him being the greatest heel ever. I'm not going to say that because the heel run didn't last long enough.
I still think he was. Look. Sergeant Slaughter's heel turn. You can say I can argue with you all day on this one because he was cheap. If I burn the American flag, I'll be a fucking heel for like forever.
Yeah, that's kind of the way. That's kind of the way I look at it too.
That's easy. Hulk Hogan all he said was, "Nah, I'm gonna start wearing black now," and he said, "Fuck y'all." And he.
But that's the thing. I'm saying the heel turn didn't last long enough to be the greatest heel ever.
That's what I'm saying.
But the greatest heel turn of all time. Nothing's ever going to top that.
I think that created the most legitimate feeling.
If you want to say the greatest heel turn, but not the greatest heel ever. And so he has it down the greatest heel ever. The greatest heel turn.
Why do you always have to fucking be? You're such a fucking bureaucratic OCD fuck. You know that?
I'll tell you. I'll put it like this though. Okay, listen. The greatest heel ever. I'm always going to go back to the number one guy. You know,
Jinder Mahal.
No, you know, I'm always going to go back.
We couldn't get one episode without fucking a mention of Jinder Mahal.
You know, I'm going to go back to Piper. Piper to me will be the greatest heel ever.
Well, let's talk about that. What a fucking combination. We're talking about people he worked with, Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper. What a foil. What a fucking foil that was. It's in our fucking intro. And beating it. That looked like they beat the shit out of each other.
The saddest thing about all of this is that almost every single person who was in the, because you guys remember Stand Back from Vince McMahon?
Yes.
Almost every single person who was in the background is gone now.
Listen, while we're on that, I'm glad you bring that because while we're on that one thing is, the one thing about Hulk Hogan's death, and I don't give a shit who calls, who writes on the stuff like that. Guess what? We're all going to freaking die one day. So be out there on this internet say, oh, we called that he was going to die. You know what? I will predict right now, everybody who's alive in America today, at some point will die in their lifetime. Okay?
Yep.
Now.
I'll take that bet.
Listen.
Dan's going to live forever.
Hulk Hogan was immortal. Terry Bollea found out he is mortal. Father Time has never lost any fight.
No, and I get that.
You know, what I'm going to say is, with Father Time never losing any fight, like I've said, a couple people have kicked out, but in the end, Father Time wins.
Well, and again, we talked about his work ethic, and I hate to bring up the more recent, but part of the things that we're talking about is he was pushing his body so hard to promote that beer. You know,
but
and
you have listen.
The last footage of him.
So
Hulk Hogan when he got booed out of the building, the last appearance he had. That's going to be his last. That's his last ever appearance in wrestling. Is when he got booed out of the building for the Raw debut on Netflix. Now, again, NF Punk said, "Yeah, fuck Bubba the Love Sponge." I agree with you on that one. But
no, it's not just
Hulk Hogan.
It's not just Bubba.
It's everyone I've never seen a very 50-50 response.
No, it's not even 50-50. There's
it's like 70-30.
I'm going to say it straight up. If you're celebrating this man's death, you can go fuck yourself. I don't want you here.
Because I'm going to put you like this. One of the people. And I'm going to say his name, and I don't give a shit who gets mad at me for saying it. Brutus
get ready to cut his mic.
Brutus Beefcake, you're going to sit there. Now you're going to try and make
cut
a
cut
Here's the thing with this, because
all these people are going to come out of the woodwork.
Wait, Brutus Beefcake is talking shit about him?
Him and Hogan haven't talked in years, but now he's going to go out there and talk all these stories about Hogan because now Hogan died. Brutus Beefcake rode Hogan's tails for 40 years.
He rode the coattails for 40 years. To be fair, he was his disciple in WCW.
I'm just saying is he rode the coattails for 40 years. People who did not like Hogan now all of a sudden are going to come out of the woodwork so they talk stories about him and stuff like that.
No. But see, Gerard, I expect that. And that doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me. That's not what's wrong. What bothers me. That doesn't bother me. I expect that. I'll tell you right now, I did not like, and I'll tell you the moment I didn't like him was the whole fucking Starcade Sting thing, but that's a whole other story. Okay. I
That
expect
doesn't work
people.
for me, brother.
I expect people to come out and kiss his ass and say how much they loved him. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to acknowledge the contributions the man did. I'm going to sit here and say how great that Hulk Hogan was as a superstar, as a wrestler, and all these things. What I have a problem with is motherfuckers going
I'm
out.
glad
And
Punk said that because I was going to bring that up.
Correct.
I'm glad Punk said that.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
What I am gonna say is what bothers me is people are celebrating his death.
Yes.
That I find disgusting. That pisses me off because
So when this came out, like, so it was a little rumored. Bubba the Love Sponge was saying on his radio show that Hulk Hogan was in bad health, and because again he just had a surgery a couple weeks ago, as far as I know, and he was coming out saying Hulk Hogan's on his deathbed, he is in bad health, and dude, like the amount of people that were just like, good riddance, the racist motherfucker, and like all this like wishing death on Hogan. I hope you guys feel fucking good about yourselves.
Hey, Jacob, a year ago we heard the same thing about Vince McMahon. He's on his deathbed. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, he's on his deathbed.
Guess what? We're all on our deathbeds. The sad part is we're doing a show right now, and somewhere in the world, somebody's going out for a jog. That person is not going home, but they jog every day for 5 miles. That one person is not going to make it home. Why? They're epitome of health, and they can have a heart attack. They're going to go into cardiac arrest. They're going to have a heart attack. It happens every day. You can be the epitome of health. You can be somebody who smokes 5 packs of cigarettes a day and live to be 90 years old. Father Time is not racist, not prejudiced. He will take you when he wants you.
so we've had a conversation on this podcast over and over about what it is to be a celebrity and if your privacy, if you're allowed to have privacy. This is why I have a problem with Bubba the Love Sponge. People would actually be celebrating this man's life. They would actually be giving him the dues he just deserves. Had what he thought was a friend not privately recorded him.
Do you think that was all for personal gain anyway?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Bubba the Love Sponge is a piece of shit.
Why would he bring it up to begin with? It took.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask anybody watching this or anybody who fucking ever comes back. Have you ever said something in private that you probably didn't want other people to see?
But we're not going to go there, Dan. We're not going to.
Just saying.
I mean, here's the thing, man. Like, we can talk about that shit with him with the fucking sex tape. He was banging Mrs. Sponge, and he said some stupid shit. We're not going to deny that. We're not going to fucking support it. But again, like, it's the more like, well, like, I'm not going to make the argument because it was said in private. It's just like,
I am. He got hold on.
He got recorded without his consent.
He got recorded without his consent. And if anybody can come in here and tell me they're a fucking saint, especially you wrestling fucking internet marks, if you could tell me you're a fucking saint and you've never said anything fucking off color or out of line in your life, great.
Me, never, not me. Come on.
Yeah, Jacob's always up on board. Jacob's always above board, man. Ever since.
See, I'm they call me
You better start
Saint Jacob from the South Side. That's what they call me.
Plead the Fifth Amendment, Jacob.
It's bullshit. Again, we talked about it earlier. And again, I'm a Stone Cold fan. But Stone Cold did worse shit. Stone Cold, let's just say it.
Hulk Hogan never beat his wife.
Plainly. And you know what? Some people would argue that Hulk Hogan would have had more reason to.
Yeah. Like I said, that we know of.
Yeah.
We know of. He committed adultery. We know he committed adultery.
No, I know that there was they talk about him and his son. Okay, say what you want. He was looking out for his son. Okay, yes, it was a shitty thing to do.
What dad doesn't?
Fuck yeah.
I mean,
we don't even need to talk about we don't even talk about his son because again, I have an opinion on Nick Hogan. I think he's a piece of shit anyways,
I do too.
But that's fine.
But again,
we don't need to go down that road.
No, but I will say that just expresses again, he was a man who loved his son. He was a man who loved his daughter and did everything he could to try to get her music career. He was trying to help her live out her fucking dreams.
If she doesn't have she doesn't have that name, she didn't go anywhere anyway. If she didn't have the name,
it's it's really sad because again, I know Brooke Hogan and Hulk Hogan, like they had a falling out, like they didn't talk for years.
That's fucked up, but it's
Yeah, no, that's pretty funny. That's pretty fucking funny. But again, like, you know, it's weird because again, fucking Ozzy Osbourne died and then Hulk Hogan died like 2 days later. I mean, you know, it's weird that Rick Derringer died like a couple months ago, and now like it's very weird. But you know, this guy transcended wrestling, was the first person to ever do so before The Rock, before
he
all
made the
fucking
skullet
like,
cool.
yeah. And the fact that, you know, Hulk Hogan's not here, Ultimate Warrior's not here, Macho Man's not here, Piper's not here, and you know, the only one really like, yeah, Dusty's gone. Like, it's really fucking sad because
you have guys,
this is an
you have
era.
guys like Jake the Snake Roberts, which don't
Who
get
still that's insane. Who thought Jake the Snake would outlive Hogan? No one.
If anybody thought Jake the Snake was going to
not
win the
one
fucking
person.
death pool, I have no idea. I just
That's insane. He's still kicking.
but no,
And,
what
you
I
know,
do have a
again,
problem
like,
with is you have so we're not monetizing this video. I mean plainly, that's clear. Which again, I'm not knocking people, but this is something Punk and I talked to about.
and Flair, I'm surprised Flair's still alive. I never thought Flair would outlive Hogan.
Look, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. Flair does not look well. Okay, so that I don't know if that's living or not.
He busted. He was doing an interview the
It's
other
not
day.
living.
He busted his head open somehow.
It looks like he got lip fillers. He does not look good. But that's another guy who I'm going to get emotional about when he passes away. Say what you want about him, but Jesus.
That's insane. That's insane.
So
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
Ted still looks good too. So does Brett.
I don't think none of those three, other than Slaughter, headlined.
no, okay. So what I was going to say is, like, look, this is clearly not going to be monetized, but I watch channels like Walt Culture, and for as much trash as they've talked about the man, and as much as they've said shit like he's a piece of shit, da da da, blah blah, and then they come on and they talk about how great he was, this and that. I'm like, what? No, they still say there's controversy. Well, he changed the wrestling business. Of course he did. But you're out there calling him a scum. You're supposed to be journalists, and you're supposed to have an opinion. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Salamonster. Salamonster's
You're
kind
supposed.
of.
You're supposed. I'm sorry. I'm a little fucking left and right here. You're supposed to be journalists, but when you're speaking about journalism, you're throwing your fucking 2 cents and saying how he's a piece of shit. He's all these horrible things. But then in the same fucking sentence, now you're saying, well, you know, he did do this for the business and do that. Okay, you wouldn't have a fucking channel if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. You wouldn't have shit.
I mean, are we gonna talk about AEW?
Oh no, and that's what I would love to lead into. So they had Tony Schiavone come on Twitter. Look, I understand banning him from your fucking promotion. I'm not here. That's not my promotion. You can do what you want. But to sit here and waste all this fucking time and then put a little thing out on Collision about how Hulk Hogan was this. He had Tony Schiavone do it. Go fuck yourselves. Because you wouldn't
not
have
even a graphic.
Nothing.
Not even a graphic.
You wouldn't have a pissat fucking company if it wasn't for fucking Hulk Hogan.
Let me put
Say
you
what
like
you
this.
want.
And we found out about it Thursday. Tony Khan could have picked up the phone to Triple H and said, listen, this is the one time I'm going to ask a favor of you. Can I play something of Hogan's on my show? I'm going to give him a 10-bell salute. If there's one guy that crossed every and all company lines that deserves to be respected,
You know who else? You know who did do that? New Japan.
And that's the shocking part about that is, who are they in business with? To make a call and say, listen, he was never in our company, but if there's ever a guy who deserves to be honored wrestling wide, it's this guy. I don't give a crap about his backstage things, because why? That's not the man I enjoyed watching. I enjoyed watching the man who came out and entertained me in the ring. Okay, and I'll put it like this, guys. I can say it. He wasn't the greatest wrestler. But you know what he had that you cannot teach today? He had the charisma that, you know what? He'd walk out into that ring and he would have the fans up in the last row of the rafters.
And it
Eating out
transitions
of the palm of his hand.
again.
If you saw, like I said, if you have Hulk Hogan back in the day on the marquee, that shit's gonna sell out. No one nowadays is gonna solely sell out an arena.
Again, but
Maybe
he
you can
transitioned
make
time, Jacob. Think about this. What we watched that little package, right? He was in his 60s at the time of that video. That little fucking Hulkamaniac little kid comes in there.
Yeah.
Look what you gonna do, brother? I met you when I was 3 years old, and now I'm 6, dude. How old was Hulk Hogan? He was in his 60s with that fucking 6-year-old. And he was out there selling.
My daughter is 23 years old. Up until
Keep her away from Jacob.
Anytime she saw him on TV, she would stop and watch him. She went and met the man last year just to get the Real American beer for me. She stood in line for 4 hours.
As shitty as Real American beer is, I'm just saying, again, Hogan was, promoting that shit. He has a new Real American freestyle. Like he was out there like doing shit, and it's just like it is fucking sad, like the way this all happened, because now like it's just like seeing all the hatred and all the fucking like again. Like NF Punk brought it up, Mark Henry.
In any store, I probably went to about 30 liquor stores. You know what I couldn't find at all?
Real American
why?
Beer. It sparked the sales increased by like 40% or something like that, or something like their market shares went up really high
because of the nostalgia factor of it. The spokesman's gone. The guy who's spokesman for it is gone. So trying to find it every place I went into, we've had our phone ringing asking people for us. They said we couldn't get it in here quick enough. Gone.
Yeah. And it's just more about like the sad thing about all of this is just, again, that last appearance, man, he was booed out of the fucking arena.
And I hope you guys can understand this when I say this. 2004, it finally happened for me up here in Boston. I saw the Red Sox win the World Series.
Boo.
And you saw grown men go to their fathers' graves, grandfathers' graves, leaving Red Sox memorabilia on gravestones. Somewhere in this world, somewhere in this country, you probably had kids going to their parents' gravestones, leaving Hulkamania dolls, stuff like that, because their parents got them into Hulk Hogan. This is the mark this guy had on the American culture on television. From the early 1980s to the mid-2000 teens, one guy captivated the audience like nobody ever has in the wrestling industry, and nobody ever will again.
Gerard, he legitimized a company that, I mean, don't get me wrong, the NWA had legitimacy, but they were never in the same league as far as like television. Whenever WWE, WWF was in its prime, when I'm talking, when Hulk Hogan took over the world with Vince, it took Hulk Hogan himself going to another company to make that company viable.
And and at the end of the day, everybody made money. But you know what ended up happening? He went home and made more money. And everybody, when the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, every company's going to go through it. We've all watched WWE go through the highest of highs. We've all seen WWE go through the lowest of lows. Look at the guys who've been there to bring them out in the past 35 years. You got 5. Hogan, Shawn, Austin, Rock and Cena.
Well, I'm glad you bring up The Rock because, again, his transition did not end in WCW. Remember, whenever the WCW stuff happened, he took a break. He went home after the whole Jeff Jarrett, ironically, Bash to the Beach thing. He would come back as the poison that was going to destroy the WWE in the new version of the New World Order, and would go on to what I think should have been the main event, what so many of us believe should have been the main event that night at WrestleMania. Was it 17 or 19?
18.
18?
18.
And you literally had
That's a funny chat, NF Punk. Benjamin Shelton. I'm sorry.
What you literally had to freeze time, because the first 5 minutes of that match were them staring each other down because the fans did not know who to cheer for. This man literally, hold on, in storyline, this man got The Rock in an ambulance and hit the fucking ambulance with an 18-wheeler. And Punk just said it earlier, the dastardly heel things he did. He hit a man with a fucking semi-truck, and yet he was still being cheered at WrestleMania.
Let's forget about WrestleMania. Let's talk about the night after.
Hold on.
In Montreal.
Hold that thought. You said it yourself. Wasn't the best wrestler. And if you turn the audio of that match off, right? You turn that audio off. Probably one of the worst matches you'll ever see in history.
Listen.
But I think The Rock was legitimately...
People talk about Hogan and Andre at WrestleMania 3. The best match on that card was Steamboat and Savage.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is the spectacle that Hogan brought, right? Think about this. Think about this. 5 minutes of that match is them just staring at each other.
Yep.
And on nostalgia stake, when he starts hulking up, I'm not going to lie, as a kid, I'm like, holy shit, is Hulk Hogan going to win this? I think there was legitimate heat with The Rock. I think The Rock was legitimately pissed off because he thought he was going in there as going to be the over baby face. And no, because it's like you said before, Hulkamania will live forever. Because everywhere there's going to be kids that remember. If there's that 6-year-old kid in Florida that saw him and reacted the way he did, there's going to be fathers and sons of sons that are going to go, that was the man.
Do you believe, because I believe in the past 3 days, I think there's something should be done to immortalize him in some kind of way, to where they've done like with the Ultimate Warrior, the Warrior Award.
So let me talk about the Warrior Award.
Can we talk about the Warrior?
Jacob, time out, because I'm with you on this, Jacob. There's a problem I have, and I've had it, and I think you and I have talked about it way before, Jacob. Warrior was not this fucking hero everybody makes him out to be.
I said it in the group chat that I'm just like, can we all stop? Okay, enough time has passed for the Warrior. Can we talk about how this guy, I'm sick of this whole Saint Warrior bullshit, that this guy was some type of hero, that he deserved an award to be named after him. Again, you could have the Hulkamania award and that'd be fine. But like with Ultimate Warrior, and again, this whole bullshit that Warrior and Hogan made up towards the end, it's like, no, these motherfuckers hate each other. And it's more along the lines of like the fact that Warrior gets so whitewashed of all the fucking dumb shit
they made a fucking DVD that was true to life about the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, which I've seen and I quite enjoyed. I really enjoyed the prospect.
It's a good documentary.
And so, and again, it's sad to see someone pass away. It was sad to see his wife, his daughters. That was sad, but it doesn't change that. Look, man, he was a piece of shit. Again,
he was a piece of shit to a lot of people.
Holding accountable a guy, and I will argue, I'm not a fan of Hogan. You know this. I have to say it how many times I have to say it. Hogan never did as much negative for the business that Warrior did. Warrior was there for a paycheck. Hogan was there a lot of that time because he loved those people that loved him.
Well, and again, like, can we just like think of like had the Warrior lived? You know, I just always think about this alternate timeline. Like, if Warrior didn't die the next day after WrestleMania and all that bullshit, can you imagine if Warrior lived with the fucking Trump administration, like the way the shit, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been very like, you know, it would have immediately ended right away, and
We wouldn't have a Warrior Award.
we would not have a Warrior. We still shouldn't have a Warrior Award. I will die on that hill fucking forever. But the fact of the matter is like, you know, again, this is a death that a lot of people, again, fucking grown men were, like Dan said at the beginning, grown men were in tears. My dad was fucking crying for 2 days. And it's just like, it's something that I'm probably never going to experience until someone like, you know, John Cena or Jeff Hardy or someone like that, or hell, even, you know, fucking Stone Cold himself. But I guarantee you when Stone Cold dies, we're not going to see all this hatred towards him. And that's really kind of fucking upsetting to me, because again, like, this man did more, like, this man
it reminds me of the old expression, you're the hero long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah, and it's just like, again, we can talk about all the fucking, you know, again, like, the only fucking thing is the racist sex tape that got leaked out. And then apparently, you know, Mark Henry, like, you know, talks shit to Hogan, like, oh yeah, well, let's go talk to black colleges together. And then, like, Hogan didn't want to do it apparently, but now Mark Henry, you know, is like the biggest Hogan praiser of all time now. And it's just like, you know, it really is fucking weird, because again, Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green, by the way, but Chelsea Green made.
Hold on, Jar. Before you move on from the Mark Henry thing, I think part of the reason why Mark Henry is so upset, and it does hit him hard. There's interviews that I've seen with, again, because you know me, I'm a fucking fan of these fucking interviews. I love the Stone Cold podcast. I love watching Cornette shit, all that. But Mark Henry did come on and talk about how Hulk Hogan helped him, you know, later in his career, and that there was a big thing what they had with WCW and WWE doing a tribute for, I cannot remember who, but him and Hugh Morris had a match, and Hogan had pulled him aside and said, "Hey, that was, wow, brother, that was amazing. Like what y'all pulled off in there. This is pre-Hall of Pain." But him and Hugh Morris, better known as Bill DeMott, another guy who I'm not going to sit here and say positive things about Bill DeMott because I've heard some horrible things about Bill DeMott. But again,
where the fuck has he been? That's crazy. He fell off the face of the earth, huh?
You know what kills me is that the fact we had on a WWE episode, somebody walked by somebody and said, "What's up my end?" And somebody else looks and says, "Tell me he didn't just say that."
Are you talking shit about Do-Rag Vince? We have a rule on this program. We are the Do-Rag fans.
And I'm saying is, it was all taken as comedy, okay? Because that's what it was. It was total comedy. That doesn't happen.
Walking up to Sabu, you must be a member of the Taliban.
That doesn't happen.
Rest in peace, Sabu.
Oh, Booker T's okay. Booker T probably okayed it. Vince probably went through the idea and said, and Booker T probably laughed his ass off and said, "Yeah, Vince, let's do that on TV." But as far as all these other people want to go is,
so Jacob, you brought something up, and it's bullshit, and it was in the chat talking about politics.
Donald Trump knew Hulk Hogan way before Donald Trump had anything to do with politics.
Hold on.
Those are two friends.
I've danced around it. I've talked about it. I've said it fucking plainly. I'm a conservative man. I voted for Donald Trump. I am a red-blooded conservative male.
Oh,
it is what it is.
Too.
I don't give a shit what anybody's political beliefs are. Those are mine. If you don't like it, I really don't care. If my opinion on that strays you away from this program, well, we didn't need your fucking view. I don't care. But to sit there and criticize somebody because they have an opinion on politics is disgusting. Now, to what Jacob just said, to criticize a Canadian woman who does not agree with certain politics and says, politics aside, Hulk Hogan, etc., is disgusting. And you basement-dwelling IWC, YWC little fucking monsters need to go get laid, or do the world a favor.
You took Chelsea Green off Twitter, you fucks. You took Chelsea Green off Twitter because you guys fucking are stupid and you want to send someone fucking death threats over fucking paying tribute to someone.
Fucking sloppy.
Again, it's fucking Field of Burn. No. Fuck, where's he at nowadays? I don't know. But anyway,
look, he copied Hogan's haircut. Fuck Bernie.
And here's the thing, a lot of your favorite wrestlers, I hate to say AEW, but go look at how much money Chris Jericho has donated to Trump. Go look at fucking the Young Bucks. Go look, again, The Undertaker. The Undertaker had him on his fucking podcast. And no one batted an eye to that shit, but because Hulk Hogan showed up.
Look, they want a reason. Like, I have my opinions on Hulk Hogan. I've said it. I've said it the fourth time I've said it on this fucking program. But I'm not fucking celebrating his death. You disgusting little shit.
Insane.
And that's what I'm saying.
And
in 1988 and 1989, WrestleMania 4 and 5 were held in what buildings? Oh, I know, Trump Plaza. So let's go back 38 years of two people working together, because without Hogan, WrestleMania 4 and 5 don't sell out in Trump Plaza.
Well, you also remember that Trump was a Democrat years ago. For many years, he was a Democrat.
But you know what? Him and Hogan, I was at WrestleMania 7. Who walked in the building? Because of Hogan in there. You can look at the video. Donald Trump is in the front row of WrestleMania 7. Okay.
And again, Trump and Vince have been friends for years. Hogan.
Donald Trump has always been a supporter of WWE.
You know who else is a supporter of WWE that no one seems to be giving shit to? Dana White. We're talking about having the fucking UFC go to the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, I don't know. Hulk Hogan was never on video slapping his wife. So
fair.
Yeah, Dana White was. That's the thing. Power slap, huh? No, but
Jesus, fuck.
That's the thing. I'm sorry, I had to. I'm sorry, but no, it's just it's kind of ridiculous that we're literally sitting here and we have to defend Hulk Hogan of all people, and it's not even defending it. It's just talking about the man's legacy.
It's the fucking truth.
It's the fucking truth.
Again,
it's
not
just
Hogan. I'm not a Hogan guy. I'm sorry, not my guy, brother. But I will not sit here and bold-faced lie to you people and say that he is not the reason why we have professional wrestling. I like Ric Flair, even though Ric Flair had the same fucking match for 60 years or 80 years or 200 years that he's wrestled. He had the same exact fucking match over and over again. Hulk Hogan put butts in seats. He did it.
Watch Hulk Hogan in New Japan. Watch Hogan in New Japan.
My God.
Hogan knew how to work. Hogan knew how to fucking work. It's just there's all this that's another thing that I fucking hate seeing. They're just can we just all deny the fact that Hulk Hogan was a shitty wrestler? And it's he wasn't the best, but if you watch him in New Japan, he was
did
fucking
the style that he needed to do to get over. He made being a 6'7" fucking man look fucking average size. That was amazing. He could do that.
I'm going to put you like this.
Yeah.
At his size and at his limited ring ability, he did it better than anybody else, smaller or taller, with the fans.
And again, I've heard this a lot.
There are guys who could out wrestle him but Hogan's sell was never the wrestling part. And if you ever notice a lot of his matches, even as a babyface, he would turn the heel roll and do a lot of heel moves.
Yeah, he would scratch their backs. I used to love that.
Their eyes and rake them on the top rope.
Yes.
And guess what? The fans loved it.
You know what I thought? What I also heard a lot of, that he was stealing shit. No, he came out and said he admired someone like a fucking oh my God, Billy Graham. He loved
the feather boa.
Dusty Rhodes.
He loved Dusty Rhodes.
He said
he admired him. He loved Austin Idol. He talked about all these guys that he had learned from on the way up. He even there was a rumor that if you go to Memphis and you watch Memphis wrestling, Jerry the King Lawler, when he pulled that strap down, you knew the match was about over. That's where a lot of people believe the hulking up came from. And everybody was doing some version of something. He was the fucking guy.
And you know who talked to him a lot beforehand when he was coming up in the business? Andre. Ooh.
Hey, boss.
And here's the thing with that too, and it's like like with Andre and all these fucking people, it's like, Hogan never shied away from that shit. Like every time he ever did an interview, he was always like, "Yeah, no, I looked up to Andre and I looked up to Super." I even
said if
stole
Andre didn't want to do business, Andre wasn't going to do business. But Andre,
and again, you watch one of his first promos, he's like, "Oh yeah, I was just copying Dusty Rhodes, brother." And it's like, he never shied away from that shit.
He also said straight up, and I want people to understand this. If Andre didn't want Hogan to be the man, he wasn't going to be the man. Andre chose to be slammed at WrestleMania 3. Andre chose to take the leg. Andre chose to stay down for 3. Andre.
They have the history of that match. And when Hogan goes, I wrote everything out, and he had to go to Vince and say, is he going to do it? He's going to do it. He's going to do it. And all Vince would have said is, Andre said it's okay. Andre said it's okay. And he goes, once I got in the ring and we started going at it and Andre started working at it, I said, okay, we're going to go this way. Because Andre knew he didn't have long. Yeah. He knew he didn't have long. His back was killing him. His knees were killing him. I mean, that size, everything's going to hurt.
Yeah, again. Leland just said it. I mean, if Andre didn't want to play, Andre wasn't going to play.
Well, again,
there's all these, and people think, think that's a famous. We could talk about the Hogan lies, over the years. We could talk about that, but people think that that's a Hogan lie. It's all like, dude, it's like no, it's like multiple fucking like Vince himself. Like again, I call it, Vince is a fucking liar, Vince. But again, like that, I fucking believe because again, Andre was still a fucking big commodity even then.
Well, and I want you to think about this. Who did that tribute? Who voiced that tribute on SmackDown for Hulk? Triple H. Okay. Who?
You know what they didn't? They didn't show. Yeah, they didn't show that. They didn't show that in the tribute package.
Who dropped the belt to Hogan?
Triple H.
Backlash.
Yep.
He did.
They didn't show that.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but they didn't show that.
His best friend is Shawn Michaels, who fucking like goofy bumped for them in that SummerSlam match years ago. So if anybody had a reason to dislike Hogan and not do that tribute and pass it on to somebody else, they could have easily passed it on to Jimmy Hart. Triple H came out and did it.
Man, Jimmy Hart's seeing Jimmy Hart, dude, seeing Jimmy Hart out there fucking just sobbing, bro, was really fucking hard to watch. I'm not
who made the Big Show's career? Who made Paul White's career? Who made the Giants' career?
They picked him out of the audience.
No, they did not pick the Giant out of the audience.
No,
the Giant showed up. And he ended up meeting them at a fucking charity basketball game. There's a whole fucking story about it. He had actually trying to get signed with them, and they asked him to leave. One of the promoters there asked him to leave because he goes, "You're taking away from the wrestlers. You're too damn big. Get out of here." But then he met him at a charity basketball game. Hogan goes, "I can draw money with you." And what ended up happening was the infamous monster truck tug of war match, which was horrible. But he dropped the belt. Now, someone else.
Or the Yeti. Remember the Yeti?
Oh, let's not talk about the humping of the Yeti. Hold on. Let's talk about somebody else. A guy who was 100 and something and 0, came out of nowhere, was destroying everybody. And who dropped the shoulders for one Bill Goldberg, which, granted, he was the United States champion at the time, but who legitimized Goldberg? Hulk Hogan. He may have got a little icy hot in his eyes, because he had it under his armpit, but, hey, who legitimized Goldberg in the fucking Georgia Dome with 60,000 people?
Still one of the most highest rated television matches that's ever happened. Still to this day hasn't been beaten. And you know who else? You know who else has the other highest television match that's ever happened? Hulk Hogan with Andre the Giant. So it's like,
Oh, the 33
you know,
million. Watch that one.
yeah. And so I don't know, man. I mean, it's just like, it's some, like I said, I knew Hogan would pass away in my lifetime because it's fucking obvious.
So
Everyone's
Hogan
gonna
made a
die
choice,
someday.
all right? And again, you can talk about the Jeff Jarrett stuff, you can talk about the Vince Russo stuff all day long, whatever. And I'm going to admit this. What Leland just said, there's been plenty of times that Hogan could have said that doesn't work for me, brother, and he didn't. And how many other people have actually taken advantage of that? Let's say go back to Steve Austin.
Well,
Steve Austin took his ball and went home.
and here's the thing, like, you know, like Hogan, like, as far, the only fucking thing where he went off script supposedly or was ever really like unprofessional in the ring, besides the fucking Sting, you know, Starcade incident where like he didn't kick out and like the referee had to do the whole bullshit. That's the only time was that Bash in the Beach show where he went off on Vince Russo. That's the only fucking time. You know, he never fucking no show to show, as far as I know. The only thing he just said no to was a Collision in Korea. And by the way, you put Inoki versus Hogan on that card, I guarantee you it probably would have been a better match. I'm just saying that match sucks. I'm not gonna lie, like that match is fucking stupid. But you know, it's like he is and always will be the guy. People, you know, Austin. Maybe Austin is the
Okay,
second.
no, hold on.
Thing.
Austin sold a hell of merchandise that was over for a while, and
But
Austin
his run was way too short.
Austin's run will never is here. As far as length of time, Hogan's here, and that's the issue. Austin did great numbers, maybe outsold Hogan in the short term, but in the long term, nobody had the longevity of fucking Hulk Hogan. It's just not. It's not.
Like I've said to you, 40 years. Cena is next closest at 20.
Yeah.
Think about this, people.
And he's done by December.
Yeah,
So it's
Hogan
like
doubled Cena. Okay. Now, in my mind, Cena's never had his Andre moment in a match. He's never had that competitor that was Andre. Never. Now, not too many people ever have had that Andre moment. Why?
I don't know. I think Cena versus Baron Corbin at SummerSlam 2017. I think like that was probably the closest. I'm sorry.
But
no, Cena versus Leland. Cena versus Rock is different because they promoted it fucking once in a lifetime,
and then
they did it twice.
Yeah.
So my thing is, though, you can't have Hogan Andre because it wasn't the fact of everybody wanted to see Cena and Rock. It wasn't the immovable force meeting the immovable object.
Yep.
You didn't have that. You never had.
Again, I'll say this: Hogan or Andre versus Hogan, Cena versus Hogan. That lived up because that moment, and
they could have done it at least once.
Trips and I were talking about it. If you watch it, it's not lights that are hitting. Those are flashes. Those are fucking cameras flashing. And it goes on and on and on. And the only reason they kept going is because the cameras wouldn't stop. They just kept flashing. I want you to count the number of flash bulbs just going off over and over again for Rock Hogan.
Well, and again, the greatest call and one of my favorite
and of course, you know, we can't.
JR.
I mean, the closest thing we had was John Cena versus Austin Theory. What a passing of the torch!
Yeah, what a great match that was. Yeah, no, but no, it's like, and poor Austin Theory, by the way, man, that sucks. I hope he doesn't get released. I feel like it's coming. But literally the greatest call, one of my favorite calls in the history of wrestling is when fucking Hogan hits that leg drop on Rock and JR just goes, he beat Andre the Giant with that move, and then the fucking Rock kicks out and the fucking crowd. Literally,
I thought he was fucking dead. Like I remember because Rock sold it. I don't know how he lifted his body that angle. It's like he broke his neck with the leg drop.
One of the greatest sellers in the history of the business. You know, people fucking say it's Dolph Ziggler, and I think you guys should go fucking fly a kite because
like the Rock taking of a stunner was always epic. and The Rock taking that leg drop that night was fucking gorgeous. It was a thing of beauty.
Well, and again, it just shows because, again, we've said it multiple times on this show. Turn the fucking crowd off for that match. Not the best match of all time.
Horrible.
But the crowd made that match because that was the first time, because they knew that was the first fucking time like Hogan was in WWE for a long time. He hulked up for the first time in like almost in years because he never hulked up in WCW. So when he actually hulked up and did the fucking thing, you could see literally like tears in people's eyes. Like people became kids again.
The night after WrestleMania, Then it was WrestleMania, the night after he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he came out to save Eugene in Los Angeles.
Fucking Eugene.
listen to the crowd when he came out to go against Muhammad Hussein. The pop he got was almost compared to when Austin came out to help Mick Foley. I mean, to me, that's the loudest pop I've ever heard, was when Austin came out to help out Foley to win the championship for the first time, when 500,000 people changed the channel because stupid WCW.
That'll put the butts in seats.
Yeah, I don't put the butts in seats. Literally everyone turned over. I mean, the next thing I could compare it to is when Jinder Mahal won the WWE Championship at Backlash. Man, I mean they were hanging from the rafters like when that happened, and it was.
So if you go from Hogan and Andre to Austin helping out Foley to Hogan coming out for that, the next gigantic pop was after that was CM Punk returning at Survivor Series.
No. CM Punk walking out at Money in the Bank in Chicago. That Chicago, that right there. I've not heard a pop like that in so long.
Especially when he won the title too. Yeah,
and then
he won the title.
CM Punk coming, and I hate to give them this, but CM Punk coming back after all those years to AEW. You had grown men also crying, but in the same breath, you don't hear CM Punk's not talking shit about Hogan.
Well, CM Punk has said multiple times that Hogan was a piece of shit, but ever since he's died, CM Punk hasn't said shit because again, I would like to think CM Punk's respectful.
It's like this, guys. I mean, you guys hope you understand this. Right time, right place to say stuff. The guy's not even in the ground yet. Some of these scumbags don't even wait for him to go into the ground. You'll make money off of him. He's so hated, but you'll make money off talking trash about him. Because everybody all the cockroaches came out of the woodwork Thursday afternoon. All the cockroaches that had a problem.
I will say something funny. I have to say this. And Ric Flair's Ric Flair. He can't even put over Hogan without going, he wasn't as good as me and Steamboat, but we had magic together.
But if you heard, Flair, the one thing I heard him say the other day is, I wanted to wrestle Hulk every night because I knew if I wrestled him, my paycheck was the top on the card.
Well, he was on TMZ fucking bawling his eyes out, man. It's like, this is a guy. This is a guy who, again.
All these people who complained about, I didn't want to work with Hogan,
Until you worked with
Hogan. 2 cards back then. 2 cards. One main evented with Ultimate Warrior. The other card had Hogan as the top billing. I loved it when we had the Hogan billing. I loved it. That means everybody's paycheck went up that night. Everybody's money went up. If you had the Warrior, it was because Warrior.
That is the funniest thing. Leland, that is the funniest comment you've ever made. That's the funniest comment you ever. I mean, true. Yeah. All right.
But I'm saying is the fact that so all these people coming out now and talking about you want to yap. But when you put money in your pocket that probably fed your kids, put your kids through school and stuff like that, you didn't mind being on the card with them then because you were making that A money. When Hogan left WCW, the A money went away with it. Because there was
all these fucking people, like all these wrestlers talking shit about Hogan. It's like, dude, you never shared a fucking locker room with Hulk Hogan. Like, who the fuck are you? Like,
Oh no,
it's like
that's the one thing. Hogan shared the locker room with everybody. He never considered himself special. He
Except for
wasn't
Gerard. He made Gerard change in the bathroom.
He wasn't like the Kerry Von Erichs of the world to where, you had to go get your own private room. He wasn't like that to where, he could walk into a building.
Yeah, because he probably didn't want people to see his foot. I mean,
I knew you were gonna fucking say that.
I'm sorry. Well,
I was gonna say that. That's the part I was gonna say.
Oh, Jacob, I told Dan this, and I'm gonna tell you this. Denver, Colorado, we're working a show. Hogan's the top guy for that night. Kerry Von Erich walks into the building. He's coming over Lyme disease, and the dead ticks are still in his skin. Hogan finds out about this and says, I don't care if he goes in the ring before me or after me. He goes in the ring, I'm out of here. Kerry Von Erich was sent home. But Hogan was such a piece of shit, he looked up at everybody on the card that night because he chose to defend all. Because the thing is, people don't understand is wrestlers don't have a union, but that man right there was the union. He talked because of the money he was making. Everybody listened because they all knew if this guy walks out that door, we ain't getting the paycheck we're getting right now. And that's the thing where I hate when people talk about this man like that because everybody loved the paycheck this guy was providing them. It did 10-3. If you got on the 10-day tour with Hogan,
what about that?
Those 10, that's right. Did you hear what I just said? Because he was the freaking union.
Well, do you think they would have made as much money if there was a union?
Yes and no.
Well,
you would have had less of a paycheck coming in if more of it went to those benefits and stuff like that. But unlike Major League Baseball and stuff like that, who claim they're a union, everybody still would have been paid differently. Because Major League Baseball is the only union I've ever heard of. Everybody gets paid differently. All professional sports. They unionize, but everybody gets paid differently.
How long do we think till Jesse Ventura says something? I mean, because he's been kind of silent. I mean, do you think we got a couple weeks before he says something?
Hey, here's one for you. You know how much money Hogan made Jesse? You think headlining all those shows that Jesse Ventura commented on didn't put extra money in Jesse's pocket?
I don't know. What do you think, Gorilla?
When Hogan was on, we watched 4 major pay-per-views today. 4. WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, all because of Hulk Hogan. If it wasn't for Hulk, you don't have those 4 You don't have those 4 pay-per-views. You don't have them.
And again, the fact that I'm glad Vince said something because it really is just these guys are made for each other. That's the dynamic duo in all of wrestling. It sucks. You say what you want about Vince and all this bullshit that's happened. It has nothing to do with it. And it's just that Vince came out of the woodwork to make a statement, and especially honestly, the fucking nice statement that he made, which is true.
Jacob, let's put it bluntly. He came out of the witness protection program because that's what.
But that's the thing, Vince. If anybody had a reason to dislike Terry, anybody had a reason to dislike Hulk Hogan, it was Vince.
The steroid trial.
And he didn't.
He was signing with WCW at the time, and he still defended Vince.
When I see a comment like that, all I gotta say is this, okay? Times changed. If Vince had still been in charge, Vince would have said, Jesse, I don't give a shit what you think. I put him on my card, my ratings go up. Problem is, and we'll all agree with this, WWE could have afforded to kill one or the other one. Why on that show? Because the ratings at Saturday's main event right now suck. So it doesn't matter who you have on.
At some point, what do we just say? Fuck it, it's enough. Let's let it go. I'm not saying you got to be someone's buddy, but just fucking let it go.
Well, and again,
do fucking business, okay? Just do fucking business.
Well, how fucking long has it been since Jesse and Hogan talked to each other?
Again,
25 years?
There is. We've talked about there is legitimate heat between someone like Seth Rollins and CM Punk, right? There is legit fucking heat. They do business. They do business.
They had a great match.
I'm going to
They
tell
had a
you
great
why.
match.
Think about the whole Dan. You got to remember though, in today's wrestling, you don't get paid off the house anymore.
Yeah, well, because again, like I said earlier, there is
Well,
not a single fucking person.
that means more. Because if you're getting paid off the fucking house back in the day,
if
you were
Now, okay, if
Hold on.
WWE's on the brand, that sells
Hold on.
out. That sells out.
Hold on.
We're not.
If we're
There's
talking
never
about
gonna be.
you're talking about the past, Gerard. If they were banking on the house, then you do business with Hogan. You shut the fuck up because you know that motherfucker's going to get paid. Okay, so that gives more cadence to someone like CM Punk and someone like Seth Rollins. They're not getting paid off the house. They're doing it because they're fucking professionals.
Well, I'm saying if they were still
Guaranteed
getting
contract.
right? If they were still getting paid off the house, would they want to do business with each other? I don't know, because if you can't guarantee me a sellout, I don't know if I want to do this match. Now there could be one person in the arena; they get paid the same money.
Well, and it's just like it really just is, like I said, because again, there's never going to be another star that's solely going to sell out like arenas, stadiums, just on the fact that he's on the card.
It goes back to something we've talked about in the beginning, right? In the very beginning of this, we were talking. You can say professional wrestling, and the one name that will come up even to this day, other than now these days more like John Cena as well, but Hulk Hogan. 40 years.
Play the music. You play the music. You don't even have to have the guy come out. Play the music. Everybody know who it is, okay? July 1991. The Worcester, Massachusetts. Inside the Worcester Centrum. Hulk Hogan versus Undertaker. First time in a non-televised event. And they only sold it to the Worcester, Massachusetts area. Worcester Centrum at the time wasn't a high, because you had Boston, you had Hartford, and Worcester's in the middle.
That is an excellent point, Leland.
Yeah.
What I'm saying,
because again, they're
stupid.
stupid. They're making SummerSlam a 2-night event. That's just retarded in and of itself. But it's
in a 16,000 seat arena between Boston and Hartford, they sell it out in July of 91. 4 months later, they do their first time ever at Survivor Series. Okay, the match had already been played. Around the same time, Randy Savage was supposed to take on Ric Flair in Dayton, Ohio. Savage couldn't do it because I think he got bit by the snake and he had that little infection. Guess who stepped in? Hogan versus Flair on an unannounced card.
You know what, though? Let's talk about some of those matches, though. Gerard, is there any match that you wish that you could have seen with him that didn't go through? And I'll say first, it would have been the WrestleMania that we should have got. And don't get me wrong, Macho and Flair was great, but it should have been Hogan Flair.
I'm going to go to the number one. The number one is Hogan Austin. That's going to.
They could have done Hogan. Hogan Austin would be great. I think there was an opportunity. I don't know. It was rumored at the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania, even though it was technically the 24th. Fucking stupid advertising on that one. But So the 25th WrestleMania, there was a rumor that Hogan and Cena were going to have a match, and I could believe that shit because again, it was rumored because I remember WrestleMania 23. It was supposed to be Hogan and Big Show, and it's again, they could have done Hogan and Cena around that because around then Hogan, I wouldn't say he could still go because his back was destroyed and his knees were destroyed, but he had his last match ever in TNA.
So I want to talk about his back, right? He had a move.
10 years.
He had a move set and he had a finisher. That leg drop destroyed his back.
And what did he say? Yep. If he had chosen the sleeper hold over the leg drop, because guess who got the sleeper hold?
Roddy.
And Hogan got the leg drop. He goes, if I could have gotten the sleeper over the leg drop, he would not have been in the way he was with his career. But my thing about that is this: you wouldn't have got over as much as you did with your career.
You know, I was thinking about that while we were doing this. If he could have just used the big boot, that big boot looked devastating as shit. If he could have just used the big boot. But
I mean, like the move set that he did.
People say like, oh, Hogan never did any jobs or anything like that. Like I hear that now, and it's just all like he fucking lost to Vampiro in WCW. Clean.
He lost to Billy Kidman.
Dude. Yeah, to fucking Billy Kidman, dude. Again, like
he lost to Billy fucking Kidman.
Like again, even watch the SummerSlam match that he had with Randy Orton in 2006. That was a fucking good match. Like, you know, it's like, you know, he had a match with Randy Orton. That was a good storyline.
You know, and again, I don't know the validity of this.
His tag team with Edge. He was tag team champions with Edge.
No, okay, no. There's another thing.
You forgot one thing, though. He was the original. A grande Americano.
I'll kick your ass. I will kick your fucking ass. You see this?
Hey man, you saw it, man. Can we talk about he just showed up in AAA, man?
Hold on. So there was a big old thing about, you know, Undertaker, and he goes, "You got me, brother," and talking shit about all that, about, you know, years ago with the Tombstone and how Hogan was trying to fuck his career up. Yeah, well, you know what else he did? He went back and gave the give back to Big Evil many years later, dropped the undisputed title to Hogan.
Yeah.
He had just gotten it from fucking Paul Levesque. He just got it from Triple H.
And Triple H sucks so bad as champion, they had to give it to Hogan.
That's not what happened. You know, that's not what happened. They gave it Hogan.
Well, because Hogan was more popular at the time.
Yes, Hogan got over, and it was such a big deal.
Triple H's champion has never been good. Can we just stop?
But again, Hogan could have had a run with that belt, one last big run with that belt. What did he do? That works for me, brother.
And it again, like, you know, we're talking about greats like El Grande Americano, and it's like, you know, you saw the reaction.
Hold on, you know who else? Leland, you know who else got a standing ovation this weekend at fucking AAA? Dominic Mysterio. That's who got one. So what does that say about them?
That's one of the biggest pops I've heard in a long time.
And it blew my fucking mind.
Oh, it didn't blow my mind.
You know whose mustache is similar? Hulk Hogan stole Dominic Mysterio's mustache.
Dom is a fucking national treasure.
I think you've been smoking too much of the agave down there, brother.
Oh, it's fucking awesome. He got when he won the belt at Mania, that was awesome too. Like Dom is really fucking. He's the only one really nowadays who gets like being what a heel is, and like the way he's cringy as fuck, and it makes sense. He's feuding with AJ Styles, and he's like, I'm not cleared yet. It's fucking great. You know, I mean, the closest thing we have like to a Dom Mysterio right now was Jinder Mahal, because I think Jinder Mahal, like he really got the heel person. Man, if we would have had Jinder Mahal versus Hulk Hogan, you know, man, that would have been, I don't know. You talk about the irreversible force moving the immovable object, man. I mean, you know, I don't know how Hogan.
You're right. Another Canadian.
Yeah, no, exactly. Another Canadian, you know, and it's just like, and I don't know, man. He's Canadian by way of India. I think the way they pushed it. Wasn't he Great Khali's brother too? I think so. Like I think that was a thing. But God damn it, man! Like, you know, Jinder. You know, you can't hinder the Jinder, and you know, I don't think that would be a fight that, you know, Hogan. That would have been something. That would have been something. But love for Jinder aside, what's up, Jinder? It's just a fucking weird week, man.
Let's talk about when he won the belt in WCW. He had just straightened his hair. He came out to that. He's a real American.
It went
American made. American made.
Like a rock on a one-step stool ladder. Okay, that's how it didn't, because it wasn't getting over. Like a lot of his stuff in WCW at the beginning did not get over because they didn't have an audience.
The Dungeon of Doom? Yeah, the Dungeon of Doom.
No, they didn't have an audience.
There was a match with him, Hogan, and they call it like the Tower of Death. He had to fight the Horseman. He had to fight then he had to fight a guy, which is the most horrible name ever, the Final Solution, and what was it, Z Gangster, who was Zeus.
Let's not even go there with the Shockmaster. Okay?
Yeah. What about the shark? Come on, don't forget about the shark.
Don't forget the shark.
I'm saying is, it was terrible television to watch. They were making mistakes every week. They went all in on changing him. If the fans didn't buy into it, what?
WCW's dead.
Yep. If the fans,
if the NWO wasn't born, let's be honest, Hall and Nash were great. They were not Hogan.
No.
Hogan made that faction.
He took that to another level.
Nash is the only one left out of the original NWO.
And I want you to know. Oh, the original 3, yes.
And if you think about it like this,
the original 3.
Just go back and look at the night after King of the Ring. If people don't come out there with their signs, Austin 316. If they don't, if it's a fart in the audience because it goes over everybody's
Okay,
head.
Leland, yes, it did die anyways, but it had a longevity. And you notice that Hogan gone, it died right after Hogan left. So that has to say something too, right?
What I'm saying is, though, when that thing for Austin, the next night, if the fans didn't pick on it like that, Austin isn't made. Monday Night Nitro, the night after, how did they start the show? With Kevin Nash, Scott Hall.
Well, let's think about I want you to really think about the way those promos are done too. Yep. It was completely revolutionary. It wasn't a guy on a camera going, I'm going to come for you. And it was the following announcement has been paid for by the New World. It really felt like
right now. The video that put them on the map the most was Rey Mysterio getting thrown.
Lawn darted through a They look like real fucking invaders.
The real police showed up.
And here's the thing: has Sting said anything about this yet? Because I'm kind of shocked Sting hasn't made.
I'm sure he's upset because he has always talked positively, even after Starrcade. I have no reason to get upset about Hogan over Starrcade. If the man that got fucked is not mad at him, why do I have a reason to get mad at him? And I've thought about that while we've been doing this.
It's like Sting was his final opponent. That was the last match.
Sting has nothing but. Sting said nothing but positive things about him.
There's another guy. Yeah, one day Sting will die. One day he will die. Can we call it now? But
shut up.
What?
Shut your mouth.
I'm just saying.
Man called Sting.
I love Colonel Sanders Sting right now. I think he looks amazing. You shut your whore mouth.
It's old man Sting.
He looks like Colonel Sanders. I'm not gonna lie. He has a white fucking goatee with a black streak and a big slick back white hair. He looks like Colonel Sanders.
All I'm saying is, one day he will.
No, he won't. Shut up. Crow Sting will die and come back and avenge his loved ones.
I'm just saying, so that all these people, with their sponges and stuff like that, can know.
Ooh, that's a good question, Leland. That's a good question.
It didn't exist at the time.
No, if it did. Oh. I don't know. That's a good question. Well, because again, if social media existed at the time, kayfabe would have died fucking way sooner than it did. Because then, because imagine if Roddy Piper had a Twitter back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like
there'll be a lot more explicit. Yeah. There'll be a lot more expletives than fucking Hogan ever said.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I'm going to be honest. Hogan, look, if you look at some of the
that's
older,
not Booker T. That's Tony Atlas.
I come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
And I am all out of bubblegum. Now, that being said, we're talking about, you're talking shit about Hulk Hogan. Roddy Piper wrestled an entire fucking match in blackface.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, dude, look up the fucking promos with Roddy Piper and fucking Paul Orndorff talking shit about Bad News Brown and Tony Atlas. Like, look at that shit.
The shit he said about Mr. T in interviews that borderline.
Listen,
Kevin Owens has said some racist shit.
Hey, so did Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn has said some racist shit.
Wait a minute. There's a video of Roddy Piper talking to a certain announcer in the middle of a ring, and a certain amount announces.
Oh, Sting has spoken about it.
Huh?
Sting has spoken about his passing.
Okay,
well, good, because I did not see it.
So Roddy Piper spoke to a certain announcer in the middle of the ring in certain hometown. Okay? In a city called Philadelphia, which when he was doing it was predominantly a minority town, and he was insulting a minority announcer in the middle of a ring
Can we look like? And this is the problem I have with this. If it's got to be bad for one, it's got to be bad for all, right? Let's talk about someone like New Jack. New Jack said racist shit all the fucking time.
Look at the song he came out to.
Shout out to my homeboy O.J. Simpson. Keep up the good work, baby.
Look at the song New Jack came out to.
Jesus.
What? I'm just quoting a promo. It's okay. No, but here's the thing.
That was something I was going to touch on. He was fucking Hulk Hogan. Wasn't O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson for many years got a fucking pass, but people are talking about like when he died. Yeah, they're all fucking talking shit about O.J. But O.J.
Juice.
They're treating Hogan like he was fucking O.J. Hulk Hogan didn't kill his fucking ex-wife. Hulk Hogan didn't do any of that shit. He said a bad word.
I saw one tweet that I need to find because someone I'm pretty sure it's deleted by this point. They're just like, man, it's kind of weird how I can watch Chris Benoit matches, but now I'm really like I fucking hate Hulk Hogan or something like that. It was something like comparing Chris Benoit to Hulk Hogan.
I feel like the ice of Alaska is taking over your screen. I don't know if you can see it.
No, it's fucking smoking in here. I think my fucking roommate left the fucking stove on. I don't fucking know what's going on, but yeah, it's my house might burn down. We'll see. But it's fucking ridiculous because
Leland, that's the problem I have.
Before social media, what did Hogan say? What did he do? Blah 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 blah. Social media gets involved in stuff like that. A setup gets involved.
No, a bunch of fucking whiny little internet bitches get involved, and they think that they're the Dave Meltzers of the world, the fucking what cultures of the world. Everybody fucking has to talk their fucking 2 cents. How about you acknowledge what the motherfucker did for the business? That acknowledge the fact that Davey Boy wouldn't have a fucking career if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. That what culture wouldn't exist if it was wrestling? What culture wrestling wouldn't exist if we didn't have Hulk Hogan? There would be no fucking TNA. There would be no WCW. There would be no AEW. New Japan might still be there because that's different. But there would be.
And I think we still have the territories.
Yeah.
We'd probably still have the territories if Hogan doesn't do what he does for Vince.
The wrestling business in North America would not be at all what it is today if it was not for Terry fucking Bollea.
Did you guys ever think Vince would outlive Hogan? Because I never thought that.
I did because Vince is a fucking freak of nature.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah, Vince is what you call an enigma. Not talking about Jeff Hardy, the charismatic enigma, but it's more just like seeing that this has happened, and like the fact that like again, every fucking wrestling promotion and their mother did a graphic. Did a fucking 10-bell salute. I don't think TNA did, but they had a graphic on the fucking screen.
Well, and they talked about that.
TNA acknowledged the fact. And you just have Tony Schiavone, respect to Hulk Hogan and his family.
Only reason I believe they did is because they were catching heat for it.
Yeah, and again, you have a fucking cocaine addict as the ruler of your company, and he fucking, probably forgot.
I never fully watched the CM Punk interview with Ariel Helwani until today. And what I learned about fucking AEW is I said I was giving them another chance because they didn't put the belts on Mercedes. But I may have to go back on
right?
all the fucking heat.
Yeah, all the heat because they're like, yeah, Mercedes is going to definitely win, and she will win that belt.
And I'm fine.
They're calling her Mercedes Hogan for a reason.
Well, I'm going to say this. There's a point I want to make for watching that fucking interview with Ariel Helwani, and I don't like Ariel Helwani either. But Punk goes on to say that he just came there to wrestle and do his job. And because of rumors and the love for a fucking idiot like fucking Colt Cabana, he ends up having to go through shit. He says, I'm not mad at Hangman. I'm mad at Hangman for fucking ruining hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of precious TV time. He goes, I'm not even mad. The
first time won't be the last. I guarantee.
He says, I'm not mad at Hangman for sticking up for a friend. It's the right thing to do. What I'm mad about is that he did it at the wrong place and the wrong time. He said, because you're sticking up for a guy, you don't know the truth. The guy wasn't fired. The guy still had a job. And instead, you have a bunch of children, and I'll quote him, a bunch of children and a big-ass fucking baby who doesn't know how to handle shit. So they had a guy come in and they tried to make him the fucking law, and then they wouldn't back him up. If you've ever worked in a fucking position in a job where you're working and you expect to be, and you're a supervisor and you expect your boss to hand down the punishment after you've already written somebody up and they don't do it, you're hamstringing that employee, you're ruining that employee, and you're destroying them. Tony Khan is the biggest fucking failure as far as AEW. Tony Khan is the reason why Cody Rhodes is gone. Tony Khan is the reason why CM Punk is gone. Tony Khan is the reason why AEW is not a viable product right now. And as far as competition, because you're relying on someone like Jon Moxley. Shout out to Jon Moxley. Love me some Jon Moxley, but he's never going to fucking compete with Roman Reigns. It's just not going to fucking happen. It is what it is.
Well, what a weird, ironic thing, man. Remember back in the day, like, oh yeah, Dean Ambrose is going to be the breakout star. He's the Stone Cold.
And I find it funny, but and to close this little fucking tirade off, Tony Khan is ultimately the guy who has the final word as far as things go, and you can't spare 5 of your precious fucking minutes that you're getting paid for. You're not paying for the TV time. They're paying you to be on their fucking network, and you can't spend 5 precious minutes to say, Hulk Hogan, we didn't get along. We weren't fan. I wasn't a fan of yours, but there are plenty of AEW fans that cross over and are fans of yours. So this is for you from them. This is the same guy that decided that Jay Briscoe wasn't good enough to be on his fucking program, but now he'll suck Mark Briscoe's dick all day long. Sorry, no knock on fucking Mark, but Jay was the moneymaker, and you fucked that off. How did you feel when he passed away?
Yeah, no, it took Jay passing away for them to acknowledge the Briscoes on TV. And it's always a thing I'm never going to, like, again, I've never fucking praised AEW. I have a couple times, but it was good for, like, AEW, usually when WCW was around, there was a dull period, then it started to get popular, then it peaked, and then, then it went downhill. AEW just like it appeared and then it peaked for 2 months and then the pandemic happened and everything. When are we gonna
fucking learn to let this shit go? You got someone there. There's rumors. I'm not saying it's true, but there are rumors that Alberto Del Rio is still in the mix. Alberto Del Rio was in AAA. Alberto Del Rio was doing this, but Hogan's the fucking devil because he said the N-word a couple times. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying what Hogan said was right, but he didn't beat someone's ass like a fucking Alberto Del Rio.
And again, if people think Alberto Del Rio is coming to WWE because of this shit, and it's like they're like, oh yeah, well, I didn't have Alberto Del Rio coming into WWE on my bingo card. It's like, no, they don't fucking acknowledge him. Every time they do a fucking AAA show now with WWE, he was still allowed to
fucking wrestle in AAA, wasn't he? He was still acknowledged in fucking AAA. But Hogan's a fucking monster.
But then WWE didn't fucking, they didn't sign off on Alberto Del Rio fucking they didn't promote it. But that's the thing.
They're still paying his ass.
They are still paying his ass. And again, I don't know, all this bullshit with Tessa Blanchard too. Like Tessa Blanchard, that's a thing that happened.
How about we let that shit go? Say what you want about Tessa Blanchard, but for whatever business she had with that wrestler, they had a conversation privately. She's good with it.
And they fixed it.
They fixed their issues.
And we cannot pretend that Tessa Blanchard in the ring is better than half of fucking AEW's roster. I'll say that right now. Not better than Abaddon though, because I don't know where they're at, but hopefully they show back up.
It's just at some point you got to let this shit go, brother. You really got to just fucking. Life is too short.
Well, they literally had fucking Hulk Hogan host WrestleMania a couple years back with Titus O'Neil. Do you think Titus O'Neil didn't approve that? Do you think Titus O'Neil didn't approve that?
Titus O'Neil again. Titus O'Neil, 4-time fucking best father and on the world fucking recipient,
and Warrior Award recipient too. Like we gotta forget that.
That was Chad Gaspard. That
He's in the Hall of Fame. No, Titus is a Warrior Award.
Oh, he's for his slide for the world slide.
For the world slide, yeah, no, yeah. Titus O'Neil is a Hall of Famer now. They consider him Hall of Famers. So Titus O'Neil is a WWE Hall of Famer. Isn't that weird?
It's crazy that the company that he has had the most beef with has acknowledged him more than anybody else.
And again,
that's even with Vince gone.
Whole bullshit, Yes, with Vince gone too. That's the craziest thing. Even when all the fucking bullshit happened with the Gawker lawsuit, all that bullshit, they scrubbed him for he was gone for like 4 years.
I do want to do one thing.
I forget which WrestleMania.
I do want to do one thing, and it's going to be hard for both you and I, Jacob. But shut up for a second, and I'm going to shut up for a second, and I'm going to give Gerard a chance to just. Gerard, I know this bothers you. I know it hurts you. I know how much you love Hulk Hogan. I know how much he meant to you as a wrestler, as a personality, and in wrestling in general. So if we can give the floor to Gerard, please.
All I can say is this, okay? My childhood, I can thank him for giving me the childhood that I had. When I graduated high school to go and working for the company that he was part of. On numerous occasions, he would walk into buildings, come up behind me, put his hands on my shoulders, just say, "What's up, brother?" A couple of those occasions, hey, you want to go get me this, that, or the other thing from the concession stand or something like that, and you just turn around and you went out and did it. He helped me bond with my kids growing up because they would watch his matches, and my kids ended up liking the wrestling programs that I was watching because of Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, to me, like I say, will forever be immortalized in the world of professional wrestling. Terry Bollea, as of Thursday, found out he was immortal. He went to the place that for my entire time of watching him on television, he had that cross around his neck the entire time. And I think he finally found his peace with himself when he got baptized last year. Yes, we all know he said some things. We all say things that it's off the cuff and stuff like that. But not everybody has a hot mic around them that destroys their career. Not everybody can go out and support somebody who you probably didn't just look at as a political favor. It was a friend, a man that he probably built a 40-year relationship with. Something that me or you will never have in our lifetime, because people are so short-minded today. To have a friend for 4 years nowadays is a blessing, but to have a friendship with a man for 40 years and keep that, and so when a man runs for president, you come out and you give a speech for him, and then have people turn on you because you gave that, regardless of what you've done in your career. This was a business Hogan chose to go into. Nobody forced him into the business. And for the short-sighted fans to turn on him the way they have in the past couple of years, whether it be for political purposes, whether it be because you found out this man might have stepped on some toes to get to where he was, or because he said some things he shouldn't have said. I don't agree with everything this man has done, but because of that, man, I was able to live out a childhood dream. It made me become a better man today by being able to do that. I owe it to him because of the company that he worked with. I'm probably the youngest person out of everybody who worked with him. And that's at 52 years old that can come out and talk about this. Everybody above me, obviously they're going to be older and stuff like that. They're all going to have different opinions, what he did, what he didn't do, how he stabbed them in the back, how he helped them in their career. But get them all to say the same thing. Monetarily wise, he wasn't the owner of the company, but that man provided for a lot of families. And I think that's what people should remember. If it wasn't for that guy, a lot of these wrestlers would not have been able to provide for their families, because if his name was on the marquee, your paycheck was high, and he afforded you one hell of a lifestyle. And it wasn't his fault if you didn't know what to do with your money, because he knew what to do with his. I just hope that tomorrow night on Raw, they relive the tribute one last time. And then after that, let him ride off into the proverbial sunset. And to give him some kind of a belt or something like that, I think, like the Andre Memorial Battle Royal, Andre was a spectacle, one of a kind. I think Hulk Hogan, I don't ever believe there will never be a Hulk Hogan, a person in any entertainment and or professional sports that will have the longevity this man had for as long as he had it, to put the smiles on people's faces for as long as he did. The wrestling community owes a gratitude to him, a thank you. There will always be time for the negativity. Now is not the time. Let him rest in peace. Thank you.
All of you Marks have been listening to the Marks Podcast on YouTube.